Hey everybody, trial lawyer Steven Donziger here has been disbarred and comes from work related to his effort, his decades-long effort, really, to try and wrestle billions of dollars from Chevron for what Donziger claims are Chevron's environmental violations in Ecuador. But even as he's been disbarred, the media lies about Chevron have continued. And this is something I've talked about for well over a decade because people need to understand that just because a person or an organization is fighting what they say is a good fight doesn't give them the right to do that good fight in ways that are untoward, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the court. I should say courts plural, but I digress. Way back in 1993, as it goes, Steven Donziger claims that he visited Ecuador and found giant pools of oil in various parts of the Amazon that he contends were produced by Texaco and not cleaned up. Now, the truth is that going all the way back to 1967, there was an organization formed called TexPet, Texaco PetroEcuador, okay? That was formed. PetroEcuador and its involvement in TexPet lasted from 1967 really to 1989, because even though Texaco started out as the majority owner of TexPet, the ownership shares shifted to where approximately 89% of TexPet was owned by Ecuador. And that was the case by 1989. So the reason is that Texaco had all but left the building, as they say, in terms of its involvement in producing oil in Ecuador. It was a perfect example of what we call import replacing. So you have an organization that is using your country to produce oil and importing technology, but over time your government establishes policies to replace that technology in such a way that the state run and owned organizations wind up being those companies that produce the oil. In this instance, PetroEcuador. You see? That's the story that is consistently not told in all of this. And it's not told by Donziger, who actually took advantage of not telling it. How? By cozying up to Rafael Correa, the economist turned president of Ecuador, who wanted to continue the pattern of ridding Ecuador of what Ecuador believed was control of its nation by oil companies and other organizations, primarily from the United States, as it saw it. That was even to the point where in 2007, Ecuador kicked out companies like Occidental Petroleum and fought over their luxury cars. True story. Fist fights over luxury cars once owned by Occidental Petroleum. Again, but I digress. Through all of this time, Donziger quite literally looked the other way while PetroEcuador continued its pattern of oil production in the Amazon and oil pollution via oil spills, including one of the largest oil spills ever recorded in 2011. But when it happened, what did the Rafael Correa-led administration do? They blamed it on Chevron, thinking that people like yourself, perhaps, would believe that Chevron was in Ecuador when in point of fact, Chevron never, ever set foot in Ecuador. So you would say, wait a minute, Zinni, why are we talking about Chevron? Because Chevron took ownership of Texaco and inherited the problem in Ecuador. What it inherited was blame for the oil pits that Texaco spent $40 million to clean up, but then turned over to PetroEcuador, and PetroEcuador did nothing to complete their end of the process. In fact, they used many of those lands for oil production, and still do. And through time, the process got worse. Do you realize that starting in 2012, if memory serves, Rafael Correa unleashed a policy where if you were, say, a China-based oil company that was interested in oil production in the Amazon, which should be prohibited, right? Right? Well, he said, look, or in particular, the Yazini National Park, Korea would say, hey, guess what? I have this idea. You pay us billions and we'll let you do it. We'll use those monies for environmental cleanup. Okay? That was his game. So it's the construction of the political head fake. I say that I'm for environmental cleanup. I say that I'm for saving the environment on the one hand, and yet on the other, I allow traditional organizations, not in America, but in China, paying more than top dollar to produce oil in the country without regard for environmental safety. That was the situation Korea set up. And it wasn't under the nose of Donziger, who fielded question after question after question. Why are you not suing Rafael Correa? Why are you not suing PetroEcuador? Simple. Because if Donziger were to do so, he would have lost his ability to do, well, among other things, write the very judgment against Chevron that led to the original $19 billion, then reduced to $9.5 billion judgment. Truth. Okay? Truth you won't read in Gizmodo because Gizmodo didn't report that. Just saying. As one example. And that's today. The Gizmodo article that I'm talking to you about was produced within the last, I believe, 5 days. So we have, as they say, a situation here. I am personally sorry that Steven Donziger is going through what he's going through in terms of being disbarred in his livelihood, but Donziger himself said, as far back as I believe 2007, that he expected to be a billionaire from his work in, as he put it, getting Chevron out of Ecuador and forcing them to clean up the environment. But no, not PetroEcuador. He said that, okay? He said that. He expected to become a billionaire. Well, if you're going to reach for that lofty level, strictly by lawsuit, and then hire companies, and then ask them, and then help them construct reports about environmental damage that were actually ruled to be false, you have to deal with the consequences. That's called fraud, okay? I don't know Steven Donziger. I have not met him yet. But what I'm saying to you about what he did was called that, not by me, it's not my opinion, that's court released opinion by the New York court, by Judge Lapham, not me. So the truth of the matter is that if Steven Donziger really had wanted to make a difference in Ecuador, he would have went after PetroEcuador, not Chevron. Let's be honest. I think it's time for honesty. Oh, and let's not forget that Donziger admitted to bribing judges, paying for protesters, something that's done quite a bit now in the United States, and overall taking on activities that, by his own admission, could not be done in the United States, or he would have lost his legal license. He said that. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com.